name of Almighty Allah, the most merciful. Dear audience, in this series of sessions, we are discussing Corporate Governance Regulations 2019. And in today's discussion, we will go through Regulation 36, which deals with the compliance statement and auditor's review. And in this regulation, primarily, this is made compulsory for all listed companies in Pakistan that they must make a compliance statement along with auditors are supposed to review that in order to their publication and circulation. Let's discuss this at length, compliance statement and auditor's review. I'm joined by Ms. Aisha Zafar. She will assist me in sharing this chapter with you. Ms. Aisha, would you like to read Regulation 36, please?
Yes, sir, sure. Regulation 36, Compliance Statement and Auditor Review, Sub-Regulation 1 of Regulation 36. It is mandatory that the company shall publish and circulate a statement as given under Annexure A to these regulations, along with their annual reports to set out the status of their compliance with the requirements of these regulations, and the said statement shall be specified and supported by necessary explanations.
Right. Please continue with Sub-Regulation 2.
It is mandatory that the company shall ensure that the statement of compliance is reviewed and certified by statutory auditors as per relevant regulations specified by Commission.
Very right. Now look at these keywords. First of all, we will discuss Sub-Regulation 1, and which give a reference to Annexure A. If we look at Corporate Governance Regulations 2019, this document is appended with the regulations, and which has almost 19 points, which covers almost all key areas of a company, its financial policy and other policies which are relevant. And that also includes the relevant areas of reporting and disclosure. In another session, we will discuss at length that 19 points in Annexure A, which is actually a template or specimen. And that specimen is given under Sub-Regulation 1 of Regulation 36. And precisely, this is not only for the companies to prepare the compliance statement, but also this is required under the law that after its publication, it must be circulated among the stakeholders, and this must be provided to the shareholders for their perusal. Furthermore, this is also compulsory that as long as this report is concerned, this compliance statement is concerned, that has to be certified and reviewed by the statutory auditors. And this is how the regulator ensure that the companies listed with Pakistan Stock Exchange, the companies in which investors make investments, and these companies are the one playing the key role for the development of the country, and they are the one who are taking the corporate sector or the economy of the country to the next level. So in order to ensure that they are working in the most appropriate manner, the disclosure, the reporting, and of course the publication of compliance statement is made part and parcel of these regulations. And furthermore, this is not to the extent that these measures will be taken. Report is prepared, published, circulated, but also it is reviewed and certified by the statutory auditors. Furthermore, in Sub-Regulation 3, if we look at, it is mandatory that statutory auditors of companies shall highlight any non-compliance with the regulations in their review report. So not only to the extent of compliance that the company is fulfilling the mandatory requirements of the regulations, but if there is any non-compliance, that has also to be disclosed. And that disclosure is also mandatory, and that is just to ensure that the companies are working as per law, and they are fulfilling the requirements which are made compulsory for the functioning of the companies in the country. So compliance statement and auditors review, that is the part of our discussion. And I'd like to take you to this template given with these regulations for the compliance. Let's have a quick look. And I'd like Ms. Aisha to read the same for the participants, please.
Statement of Compliance with Listed Companies, Code of Corporate Governance, Regulation 2019. So, name of company, year ending. The company has compiled with the requirements of the regulations in the following manner. The total number of directors are dash as per the following. Male, female. The composition of the board is as follows. Independent directors, non-executive directors, executive directors, female directors. The directors have confirmed that none of them is serving as a director on more than 7 listed companies, including this company. The company has prepared a code of conduct and has ensured that appropriate steps have been taken to disseminate it throughout the company along with its supporting policies and procedures.
Thank you very much.
The board has developed a vision, mission.
Let's pause here, Ms. Aisha, and let's have a look on these points. As I said, that this compliance report is in fact having 7 points, having 19 points, and in these 19 points, all the key areas for the company's affairs are covered. It starts with the composition of the board, and the key word here is the composition. So the board is composed of executive, non-executive directors, and of course female director, and furthermore there has to be an independent director. So first of all, what is the composition like as far as the board is concerned, and furthermore this is also needs to be confirmed that the directors who are appointed for the company are not performing the same job or not performing the same functions being directors of other listed companies which are more than 7 in number. So in other words, a director can serve at max 7 companies as a member of board of directors, and that has to be disclosed and that has to be confirmed. Furthermore, if we look at para 4 of this compliance report, which is a specimen, we will get to know that this is board's responsibility, that the code of conduct for the working of the board, for the working of the management, and for the working of employees is prepared. And it's not only to the extent of preparation, but this is also board's responsibility to take all appropriate steps and measures to disseminate the same throughout the company. And this is not only limited to the code of conduct, but also the policies and procedure envisaged by the company are required to be disseminated, are required to be circulated, are required to be informed to the relevant quarters to ensure their compliance, to ensure their execution, and so on. Now, point number 5, which is now is that the board has developed a vision, mission statement, overall corporate strategy, and significant policies of the company. The board has ensured that complete record of particulars of the significant policies along with their date of approval or updating is maintained by the company. So these policies are supposed to be updated time to time to make it coherent with the changing times in order to ensure the best practices. I'd like Ms. Aisha to share point number 6 with the participants.
All the powers of the board have been duly exercised and decisions on relevant matters have been taken by the board shareholders as empowered by the relevant provisions of the Act and these regulations.
That's right. So, meaning thereby that the board of directors they exercise their powers as given under Companies Act 2017 and Corporate Governance Regulations 2019. In other words, the board hasn't got unlimited powers. The board's powers are fettered, are not unfettered, and they have to exercise their powers which are bestowed upon them. And the grant of power is by the act or by the regulations. And the board of directors, members board of directors, they cannot exceed from the limits given or the powers given to them in terms of functioning of the company. Point number 7, Miss Aisha, please.
The meetings of the board were presided over by the chairman and in his absence by a director elected by the board for this purpose. The board has complied with the requirements of Act and regulations with respect to frequency, recording and circulating minutes of meetings of the board.
That's right. So these three, in fact, underlined points are of key importance. That first of all, if we look at the fact that chairman board of directors is the one who is supposed to preside over the board's meetings, and in case if a chairman is incapacitated, he is not available, or he is not feeling well, or he's abroad, or he is and in terms of stopgap arrangement, another member of the board is elected to chair the meeting, then that needs to be clarified that for that another person other than the chairman has presided over the meeting. Moreover, this is also required that if regulations provide a certain number of meetings on annual basis are supposed to be conducted, then that frequency, that how many times a year the board of directors has met and they have made decisions, those decisions are required to be recorded and circulated in terms of the minutes of the meeting. And this is really interesting, that minutes of the meetings are kept in such a manner that these are available at a subsequent time in order to evaluate that what were the decisions made and what are the aftermaths of those decisions in terms of policies for the company. And interestingly, Ms. Aisha, this is often being said that hours are wasted and minutes are saved. That is primarily that hours are spent to hold meetings in order to discuss the affairs of the company, and minutes are saved, and that is in terms of that the minutes of the meeting are saved. And this is how the policies which are made for the functioning of the company are adhered to, and that record is also kept in compliance of the regulations. Now, this point has led us to point number 8, and that is the board have a formal policy and transparent procedure for remuneration of directors in accordance with the Act and these regulations. Specifically, the lawmaker has used used the word formal policy and transparent procedures. The primary purpose of transparent procedures is to avoid any conflict of interest in terms of remuneration, because in some cases the board of director is it comprises of the relatives in some cases. So in order to avoid that relatives are not awarded in terms of remuneration, the bounties, the benefits which are not due, this is why there has to be a formal policy while awarding remuneration to the directors. Yes, Ms. Aisha, let's share point number 9.
The board has arranged directors training program for the following: name of director, name of executive, and designation, if applicable.
Right. You see, as we can now observe that in all modern countries and developed countries, there are ongoing training programs for professionals in all fields, especially the service sector. We find that chartered accountants, they undertake trainings, lawyers undertake trainings on regular basis in order to make themselves well versed with the changes made in the profession or in practices in order to follow the best practices. So for that purpose, even for the board of directors, this is compulsory that there has to be a training program for the board of directors, and on regular basis, like as I said, other professionals, they undertake continued education. So in the same manner, directors or members board of directors are required to undertake training, and in compliance report, this is compulsory that the company must explain and mention that what are the names and designations of the directors who have undertaken the training, which is compulsory. Point number 10, Miss Aisha, please.
Point number 10. The board has approved appointment of the Chief Financial Officer, Company Secretary, and Head of Internal Audit, including their remuneration and terms and conditions of employment, and complied with relevant requirements of the regulations.
That's right. So this is important that as long as the appointment of CFO and secretary and head of internal audit is concerned, this approval in terms of their appointment and their remuneration, and furthermore, the terms and conditions of their employment are in line with the regulations. They are not awarded the terms and conditions which are not envisaged in the law. Their terms and conditions are required to be within the purview of law. This is why in the compliance statement, the company is required to clarify that what are the terms and conditions like, and these are duly approved by the board of directors for the appointment of key personnels, which include chief financial officer, company secretary, and head of internal audit. Please, point number 11.
Chief Financial Officer and Chief Executive Officer duly endorsed the financial statements before approval of the board. The
So,
point
so
number 12, the
So,
board has
yes, primarily, a board is required to approve the financial statement, but prior to its approval by the board, the chief financial officer and the CEO of the company, they are required to endorse the said financial statement. And the primary purpose is that these are the key players who are in fact who are given the responsibility to formulate the financial statement, to tabulate the financial statement. So the regulations provide that they are the one who are supposed to endorse the same prior to the approval by the board of directors. This is how, under this compliance report, they cannot abdicate their responsibility, or they cannot be absolved from the responsibility. And this is their duty to make an endorsement prior to getting it approved by the board of directors. Now we have regulation 12, and this regulation, this point number 12, precisely provide for the composition of the committees, and this needs to be clarified that all these four types of committees are constituted and the composition is as per the mandate of law. Now, the terms of reference of the aforesaid committees have been formed, documented, and advised to the Committee for Compliance. Now, this is important, Ms. Aisha, that the TORs are made for all these four types of committees. in order to document their working, and in order to make the advice to the committees that what are their terms of reference like, what are the parameters they must bear in mind, what are their the procedures they need to adopt. So all these terms of reference for these four different types of committees are formed and accordingly advised to the committees in order to ensure that their working is as per law. Now, this is important point, that is 14 point. Ms. Aisha, please share with the participants.
The frequency of meetings, quarterly, half yearly, yearly of the committee as per following. A. Audit committee. B. HR and remuneration committee, if applicable. C. Nomination committee, if applicable. D. Risk management committee, if applicable.
Right. Now, the point number 15 is here. The board has set up an effective internal audit function, or has outsourced the internal audit function to who are considered suitably qualified and experienced for the purpose and are conversant with the policies and procedures of the company. So this internal audit function can be outsourced, and this is being discussed in this point, which needs to be disclosed. Now we have point number 16 out of these 19 points compliance statement. Ms. Aisha, please share with us.
The statutory auditors of the company have confirmed that they have been given a satisfactory rating under the Quality Control Review Program of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Pakistan and registered with Audit Oversight Board of Pakistan, that they and all their partners are in compliance with International Federation of Accountants guidelines on Code of Ethics as adopted by the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Pakistan, and that they and the partners of the firm involved in the audit are not a close relative, spouse, parent, dependent, and non-dependent children of the Chief Executive Officer, Chief Financial Officer, Head of Internal Audit, Head of Internal Audit, Company Secretary.
That's right. Now, regulation, in fact, 16, the point 16, has covered at length different areas pertaining to the appointment of statutory auditors. And this is given here that while submitting a compliance report, the company will clarify that we have appointed statutory auditors, and they belong to the firm which has earned satisfactory rating from Quality Control Review Program. And under the Quality Control Review Program, their rating is satisfactory, keeping in view their past performance, keeping in view the fact that these auditors are duly qualified and experienced. And this undertaking, this, you see, disclosure is mandatory for the company, and that has to be made the part of the compliance report submitted to the commission. Furthermore, this is required that the statutory auditors, they are fulfilling the guidelines given in the Code of Ethics in terms of their working, in terms of their performance. And finally, in this paragraph, this is required to be disclosed that as long as these auditors are concerned, they are not close relatives, and just to avoid the conflict of interest and just to make things transparent, that these are as in adherence to the best practices. Yes, Ms. Aisha, please share point number 17.
The statutory auditors or the person associated with them have not been appointed to the to provide other services except in accordance with the Act. These regulations or any other regulatory requirement, and the auditors have confirmed that they have observed IFAC guidelines in this regard.
Right. So the statutory auditors are having specific function to perform, and that their function is to audit or to conduct the audit of the company. And they are not supposed to provide other services. So in order to avoid that conflict of interest, this disclosure is required to be made in the statement. Now here we are with point number 18. Yes, Miss Aisha.
Point number 18, we confirm that all requirements of regulations 3, 6, 7, 8, 27, 32, 32, 33, and 36 of the regulations have been complied with, and explanation for non-compliance with requirements other than regulations 3, 6, 7, 8, 27, 32, 33, and 36 are below, if applicable.
Right. You see, these 2 points are relevant to comply and explain approach. Basically, as long as regulations given here from 3 to 36, these 8 regulations, we call them mandatory regulations. If company is unable to comply with these regulations, there has to be penalty. So in order to avoid that, in compliance report, this is required to be made clear that the company is fulfilling the requirements of these regulations, and this confirmation is the part and parcel of the compliance report. Furthermore, the second category of regulations, as we know, that there are total 39 regulations given in Corporate Governance Regulations 2019. Out of these 39, as I said earlier, there are 8 regulations which are mandatory and 31 regulations are non-mandatory. But for those 31 regulations which are non-mandatory, wherein the companies can furnish an explanation and can explain that these were the circumstances which have abdicated them, or which has caused a kind of hurdle or impediment for the non-performance or for the non-compliance. So to that extent, to the extent of those 31 regulations, law requires that the explanations shall be submitted with this compliance report. So these 2 paragraphs relate with comply or explain approach. Compliance is meant for mandatory regulations, and explanation is meant for non-mandatory regulations. This is how this compliance report, after their signatures of the chairman, board of directors, is supposed to be submitted to the commission, and just to ensure that the company is in true compliance, or the company is complying with the regulations in letter and spirit, and nothing is disclosed, nothing is in fact concealed, and every important fact is disclosed. So with these words, let's conclude today's session. I appreciate Ms. Aisha, your participation.